Previously.
Almost had a staging mishap. Look at that. Lucky me. Oh dear. Oh dear, we forgot the staging situation. I'd really like it if the parachute was to open soon. That would be really good. Oh dear. There it is. Let's take a picture. Oh yeah, you're happy. I'm happy as well. It's awesome. We've made it. Turn the SAS off. Oh, we've docked. Oh, it was easier than I thought. Knackout. I got some bad news. Oh, and we've got some magnetism going on. Knackout's craft is moving towards me. So, she's down. She's safe. Oh, explosions. Oh. Oh no. Oh dear. No. And then, I remembered something. Jeb, Bob, just like now, God, you are going to be staying here for a while. Welcome back to Basics. This is Season 2, Episode 1. So, we have a mission. We're going to start going outside of the Kerbin system into the Kerbol system. We have a mission, and it is to put a Sentinel craft out there to try and identify asteroids, risks to the planet. This is based on the B612 Foundation's mission that was proposed, almost 20 years ago now. We're going to have to use the Sentinel telescope, the infrared telescope part. So I've not used this before. This is a new thing for me. The last time I played, I don't think this existed. So I'm just starting to put a craft together, and you can see I'm looking at, right, okay, I need a bit of fuel to maneuver it around. My plan is that the satellite itself will actually have a little bit of fuel. It needs to go into a Kerbol orbit between Kerbin and Eve, and this is quite similar to the actual original plan. I've also identified the fact that we've now got hinges and things like that. I really want to use them, so I thought for this we'd actually do something just a little bit amusing, and I'm trying to construct some sort of little arms with solar panels and stuff on. This is a new thing for me. I've not used robotic parts before. They are new to me. They're not new to everybody, obviously, but I have not used Kerbal for a long time, so this is quite odd doing this. And I quite like it. It gives you the ability to build some interesting craft that in the past you'd have launched when you didn't really have trouble with air resistance and things like that. You used to launch them as they were, but now you've got a bit more sort of realistic. I won't say it's completely realistic. Air resistance, it's sort of it's useful to have this. So we have Sentinel 1A, and that's the craft. It's got a big transmitter on the top. It's got a lot of batteries because I'm concerned about it running out of electricity. Obviously, I don't know how much this is going for. Putting its fairing, and then we have to build something to actually take it to Kerbol orbit. So we have to get out of Kerbin. We've got to get into orbit of Kerbin. We're going to get out of Kerbin. And this is my first time now using nuclear engines, and I'm just playing around with them going, yes. So they now, I don't think they used to, but now they only use liquid fuel. I think originally you had to use oxidizer as well. So we put a nuclear engine stage on there, and I'm quite happy. I've done a bit of calculations because the delta V readout is not correct on here. So I know that I've actually got a few thousand delta V instead of 900 or whatever it reads. And then I start building the stage to actually get us into orbit. So the nuclear engine should do everything once we're in orbit. But I need to get into orbit. We have still got a weight limit, so I'm like, okay, this looks like a nice, interesting engine. We do a little stage like that. It's sort of just out the atmosphere stuff, and I'm thinking, okay, we put on another stage, and it's not really giving me the grunt I want, and I'm thinking, can I use solid motors? And then I identify the thoroughbred, which I have never used before, and it looks cool. It's got gimbaling, so I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So we have a solid rocket first stage, and back to past me. Welcome to the launch pad. So normally I would take off and I would then probably speed you up, and I've been doing that for a while now, but I'm actually going to talk through this launch a little bit because it's a bit more sort of different, and it's more like a real life launch. So we're starting off with a solid booster, and we're off. So I'll put the thrust up even though it doesn't matter. So solid booster is basically going to burn off. It's a thoroughbred, so it gives us some gimbaling control, which is quite nice actually, because often they don't have that. And I'm going to head up pretty straight right now. Now, I have limited the thrust on this to about 80%, because I don't want it to basically overthrust later on and become unstable. As we get to about 100 meters per second, I'm just going to start rolling, not rolling, I'm going to just edge over a little bit, start my gravity turn. I don't want this to go too far sideways. I want to get a nice sort of loft on this, and that is because our second stage, the one that's going to put us into orbit, it has a thrust that is, I think, below 1. That means that if I actually got rid of this solid rocket booster right now and just relied on it, we wouldn't go up, we'd actually go down, even though it was burning at full power. This is a bit like the Centaur stage that you find that ULA and people like that use, where it's very efficient, but it doesn't actually have a lot of thrust. So what we're doing now is we're trying to get the height for that to be sort of usable. So you see that I'm letting the apoaps rise up, and I want to take it to probably about 80. I want to take it to 80 or over 70 before I start going sideways, because then I know I've got time. I've got time to burn that second stage. Now, it's not a terrible second stage for this. It's actually got a reasonable thrust to weight ratio. And I can actually turn really far over now. You can see we've got a lot of wobble on the nose there. And we'll just decouple. If I actually hover over, I can actually flatten this out really, really flat now. So we're flying basically horizontally at the moment, and we can actually have a look, and it's got a thrust to weight ratio of 0.96. So without that initial push, we wouldn't be going anywhere. If we launched this on the launch pad, it would have just sat there and burnt its engines. So now what we're going to do is just try and get that speed up, that sort of horizontal velocity to get us into orbit, while we're using up the height that we've already gained. Now you see that I am actually going to start burning down a little bit. That's going to basically, it's a bit of a waste of fuel, but it's actually going to transfer some of that energy we used to go up into energy sort of sideways. It's going to translate that. If you want to get into Pythagoras and things like that, you can, but what we're trying to do is bring that periaps up. That periaps is our key right now. Apoaps we're fine with. I don't mind it going over 100 at the moment. The main reason being that the stage after this is nuclear engines, and I will talk to you about why having a slightly higher apoapsis and periapsis for this mission is important. All we're trying to do right now, though, is get into orbit. This craft is not great in the atmosphere. We're out of the atmosphere, which is brilliant. What we can do is unfold the craft, and you can see what it looks like. So we saw this in the VAB. It's all nicely sort of folded up. We're going to unfurl it in a little bit. But right now we're just basically burning sideways, trying to get that speed up so we don't tumble back down into the atmosphere. Currently we've got about a minute before, almost 2 minutes before we hit the atmosphere or start coming back down again, so we've got plenty of time. Our apoapsis is climbing, so what I'm actually going to do is do this a bit, because I can. But I know that we've probably got enough fuel to not worry about that. So I'm actually going to now look at our maneuver node situation. And we're going to actually plot a maneuver node. Now, in the first series of Back to Basics, I left a lot of rubbish in orbit. I'm going to try and reduce that, but I'm still not brilliant at it. I think in the future we have to do a series where I try and not leave anything in orbit, but I'm not at that point yet. So I need 430 meters per second of delta V. It's going to take me 30 seconds on this stage to do it. What I'm actually going to do is, though, I'm going to move up to almost, or get it to its almost out of the atmosphere, and then I will probably ditch the backstage that's put us up there and use the next stage to actually do the final circularization, so that we don't basically have rubbish in orbit. Now, I can do that because we've got so much delta V. If you actually look on the left hand side, you can see we've got 1,300 of this stage, we've got almost 5,000 meters per second of the next stage, and then our top stage, which is actually just for, in my mind, for trimming things a little bit, is 1,500 meters per second, which is enough to go to minus. This craft could go basically everywhere. It has an awful lot of delta V. The reason it's got that is because I designed it to do multiple things. I'm not a big fan of designing a multiple craft every single time I do something. So it's designed to achieve lots of things for us. And I will probably use this stage for the next couple of missions. I think I have some plans in mind, and this craft might be okay for that. So now we're bringing it up. You can see we're going past our apoapsis. Doesn't really matter. We're circularized. It's not really a big issue. We're going to wait until we're just about to hit out of the atmosphere. There we go. I'm going to stage, and I'm going to turn the engines on to our next stage, and that's just going to finish off that circularization for us. And we're just going to do that. There we go. Wonderful. Get rid of that because don't need it. And we're in orbit. So the debris behind us will basically fall away. So next thing is to get ourselves unfurled. We're going to unfurl these. This is my first time working with these. Isn't this exciting? We're going to unfurl our sonar panel things. We're going to open this up, I think. Extend antenna. Always remember to extend your antenna because it's really easy to forget, and then you realize you're in the middle of somewhere and you don't have signal. Now, many years ago, I used to play with remote tech, and that would really punish you if you didn't put your antennas out. You could start a burn. You could be all the way to ELU. You're coming in to circularize, or you want to modify the orbit that you're on, or anything like that. You go to do it, and it go, no, you don't have a signal, and you couldn't even open the antenna. I think they did change that afterwards, and you could do stuff like that. But yeah, it was frustrating. So there we are. There is our craft. You can see the Sentinel camera there. I'm sure my future self has mentioned that previously at the start where we were doing the build section. So now what do we do? Well, the mission actually requires that we enter into an orbit, which is 11 billion meters or whatever, 11 trillion meters. I don't know, 11 trillion meters around. If we actually look on the map view, we can see, we zoom all the way out, we're looking to try and orbit the sun, or Kerbal. Eve is close to that orbit. We want to be slightly higher than Eve. We want to be slightly lower than Kerbin, if I can bring that up. It's 13 trillion. I think it's 13 to the power 9, is it? Yeah, 13 to the power 9. Eve is 9 to the power 9. We want to be 11 to the power 9. So we want to be in this gap here. So how do we do that? Well, we're not doing a transfer to another planet. We could, if we didn't have much fuel, we might want to do gravity assists and things to slow us down, but we've got so much fuel, it doesn't matter. We can just burn for this. So we want to actually just be slowing down our orbit relative to Kerbin, in effect. So what we're actually going to do is, if you see what I've just done here, I'm going to zoom back out. Here is Kerbol, here is Kerbin. I want to actually slow down. So the easiest way to do that is to here, which is the middle of the daytime, luckily, so you can see it. I just want to burn. I want to do that, and you'll see we are getting an escape vector. And it looks really weird. Why would I want to head up in that way? That's just my escape from the system. But what you will see is it has changed massively, that orbit. So I actually want to rein that back in a little bit. I am looking for a periapse of 1,1. So that needs to go a bit more. And again, we've got so much fuel, I can actually fine-tune this later. But it's nice to get it sort of semi-correct. So anywhere between 11 and 11.25. So a little bit more maybe. Just take it in there. Yeah, let's do that. This isn't the most efficient way of doing it, but you know, we've got time and energy to play with. So 11 to that's almost perfect for me. So it's going to be 1,000 meters per second delta V in about 6 minutes. So we will, and now I don't think that the nuclear engine actually has gimbaling. Does it have gimbaling? It does not say it does. I cannot remember if it does or not. Important fact to note, if I haven't already mentioned this, is that these tanks are just liquid fuel. Nuclear engines do not need oxidizer in this game. I don't think they would need them in real life either. Equally, the actual exhaust that comes out of a nuclear engine is not as hot as the exhaust that comes out of conventional, because you're not burning in the same way. You're basically energized, you're charging, you're doing all these different things. Do not rely on me to teach you the science of that, please. There are many people out there with much better sort of descriptions of how nuclear engines work, and you know, there are also different sorts of nuclear engines. So we're just coming to our maneuver node, and we're just going to time warp it because I could take my time and sort that out, but it doesn't matter. Right, we're going to get it down to, it's a 2-minute burn, and this is where you will notice something interesting. When we come towards this burn, we're going to be facing Kerbin. And this is partly why I've gone for the slightly, ever so slightly higher orbit than I normally would. Primarily, I don't want to end up in the atmosphere, and we're going to be doing quite a bit of burning. And there's always that risk that you actually end up heading down into the atmosphere and clip it. And I don't want to do that. So it's going to be a long burn. We're going to just position ourselves and take our time. It's a lovely shot, actually, isn't it? Lovely little shot there of the craft. So we're getting to about the right time. I'm going to start a little earlier than I normally would. So I'd normally start about 1 minute. We're going to start a little earlier. And we're just going to position ourselves down. Now, I'm pretty sure that we could dump this stage as we leave Kerbin. And if I had put a probe body on it, I could actually send it back to the surface and crash it into it and just use our sort of maneuvering Delta V from the main body of the craft to do the actual circularization around Kerbal. But I'd rather just keep hold of it for right now. You know, this program, this what we're running, is not about being tidy and neat and not having stuff in the system flying around. So we're just going to do that. We can actually see, what's that? That's probably our previous stage falling back through the atmosphere. So we can go into map view. And we can see we still have not escaped Kerbin's gravity well, as it were. We're still flapping around there. And it will happen quickly. It takes very little to go from just escaping Kerbin to being on Eve. I could tell you off the top of my head what it is. It's literally a couple of 100 meters of Delta V. It is not much at all. I could chase this this target node, basically this target that we've put here, but I don't really need to. We know we're going to be basically going prograde for most of this burn, because all we're trying to do is get out of the sphere of influence of Kerbin, and that's going to happen pretty soon, I feel. If we actually zoom in, how are we doing? Yeah, you can see we're starting now. We're past the moon. We're going to, oh no, we're not. We're past our thing here. We've used most of that Delta V just to get from low Kerbin orbit. Once you get past the moon, you go up very quickly. It's very easy to fall out of Kerbin's sphere of influence on the way to Minmus, so be aware of that. And we're just going to keep burning. And this is it. I could speed up this bit, but it's actually going to end pretty soon. So here we go. Oh, there we go. And now we've got a periaps. And what we can actually do is just, you know what, I could actually turn that off. We can just keep a mind on this, and we can just end it when we need to. So there. A little bit more thrust maybe. 5.2, that's close enough. So I'm going to speed up the next bit because we're actually going to accelerate to the periaps here, where we're going to do a circularization burn. So speedy up time. Right, so thank you, past me. So yeah, so we're just moving to the periaps because we want to circularize. It's the easiest place to do it. And in reality, this isn't much of a burn. So let's get back to it, shall we? Welcome back, past me. Right, welcome back. So we are now at the periaps. We haven't done our burn yet, but I've actually just looked at the Delta V and I think, you know what, we're gonna dump this nuclear stage. It takes up a lot of space and it makes us less maneuverable, so we can just do this, give ourselves a little bit of a burn that way so we don't run into it, and then we'll just turn ourselves around a bit. So do that. We're now pointing in completely the wrong direction for this. This is going to be a problem. I'm actually going to go back across our own path, aren't we? Right, we're going to hit it. You can see this coming. Yes. Are we going to hit our own craft? No, we're not. We're going to ease past it. Okay. So now we're just circularizing. You will have seen, possibly unless I've cut it out in some of the time lapse a bit there, we get a lot of science coming in from our little base on Minmus there. So that's building up science. In between some of the episodes, I have actually done some returning to Minmus and the Mun just to collect science because it was giving us funds. Now, I'm not going to show you every one of those missions. If there's anything interesting comes up, like build a base there, I might do it. I haven't decided. Might do it as a bonus episode, I'm not sure. This series is very much, I want to be about exploring the sort of Kerbol system. Look at that. There's Kerbol. Oh, glorious, isn't it? Absolutely glorious. I would like to make this series about exploring the Kerbal system, particularly with this mission. So that's what it's going to be about. This burn takes forever, doesn't it? Maybe it would help if I actually, I don't know, put it on full thrust. So this is one of the reasons I didn't want to do it like this. But yeah, so you can see, got a few tanks there of fuel. We've got our antennae out. We've got everything running. This is going to take a little while. So I may do a little speedy up bit here. And I'll see you in probably about 3 seconds. Thank you, past me. Well, it wasn't 3 seconds because you can't actually speed it up more than that without it going a bit crazy. But it is quite a reasonable amount of time, and it would be worse if it was ion thrusters, which I am about to unlock. So, with that, back to past me, I think. Right, and we have it there. So you'll see that we reached our orbit, required orbit, well before the actual range that was given in the task. And I just kept burning because I thought it'd be quite nice to just have a more circular orbit. So what happens next? Well, we've got to map some asteroids. This should happen once we actually turn it on. So let's see. I think we just do start object tracking. So the infrared telescope is now mapping asteroids coming past Kerbin orbit. Now, can we see that in the map view? I don't know. Focus that. Is there anything coming into Kerbin orbit? Not that I can see just yet. So this will happen supposedly passively as time goes on. Now, if I haven't already mentioned this, this is based on the Sentinel mission that was originally proposed by the B612 Foundation. That was founded in, I want to say like 2002. It's been around for a long time. It's notable members are people like Ed Lu, the astronaut, and they proposed Sentinel, and they were all planning ahead with it. And the idea was that it would be orbiting in an orbit similar to Venus. So unlike here, where we've actually got it sort of equidistant between Eve and Kerbin, it would actually be sort of on the same path as Venus. Some people were sort of like, well, why would you do that? Why would we put our satellite here? Well, it means that as it's orbiting, it's actually getting a full view of the sky. The Earth's not in the way, or in this case, Kerbin's not in the way. It can take its time and it can actually scan the whole horizon. And the idea of Sentinel was it would get about 90% of the sky it would be able to actually assess. And I think it was every 20 or 30 hours it would actually get a full coverage of half the sky or something like that. And that was the plan. That has now changed. I think they applied for a lot of funding, or they tried to get a lot of funding. They worked with NASA for a lot of things, and they've now changed and rescaled their plans. So I think they've now gone for the idea of using a lot of sort of near-Earth satellites, clusters and groups of them, constellations, to do the same job. Because I think mainly it's going to be cheaper, and it's much easier to replace one single satellite from a cluster than it is to replace the main satellite that's doing everything. This Sentinel is not coming back to Earth or Kerbin, and it's not going to be fixable. If we sent a crew out to fix it, we could, but is it really? It's a docking procedure that it's a lot to do. So this will now sit up here. It'll complete its mission, hopefully, and until next time, we will be leaving it there. So please remember to like, subscribe, do all that stuff. If you have any comments, please comment down below, message me on Twitter, all the things down there. If you are interested in the B612 Foundation, please look on, you can Google it. If you put B612, it will probably come up with something that isn't the B612 Foundation. I will put a link down below into all this. And have a good day until next time.